Thanks for your kind introduction. So, look, of the many faculty that you could have invited here, you chose like a financial accounting professor who have not been teaching in this program. I don't have the pleasure to know any of you personally. I wish I would, right, but I don't. And I've never been actually teaching in this program. But obviously I know about this program. And yet, you know, I'm sure that what I'm going to say now is totally aligned 100% with everything that has been taught in this program. Because both Timoney, IESE, we are like mission-driven schools, you know. We have very strong values, and I'm sure that the things I'm going to say are very much aligned with many of the things that you have seen here, okay? And I was thinking, I don't know if you know a book that is called How Will You Measure Your Life? It's a book by an HBS professor, Clayton Christensen. He was a guru in innovation. He had this book at the end of the 90s about the innovator's dilemma. So he was a very well-known guy, a guy who passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately. And so this book is based on a speech that he addressed to the MBA class of 2010. Okay, so this is the class, the MBA class that started in 2008, September 2008. So just a few weeks into the program, and Lehman Brothers collapsed, you know, and all hell broke loose, and all of a sudden, you know, just in a few weeks, people realized that, you know, I think I'm not going to land my dream job. All these projects I had in mind, you know, they just shattered into pieces. So the level of morale in the class was super low. Okay, so people, and so this professor felt in the need to lift up the spirits of the class, and so he went to the class and addressed them. He was a very well-respected professor. Those who have known him, he was a very nice person, and he told them the following story, which I thought I was going to use today, okay? And he said, look, out of my Rhodes Scholarship class, it was a Rhodes Scholarship, this scholarship that allows you to spend 1 year at Oxford, and they basically look for students from all over the world, you know, the best academic records, and there is all this selection process. And he said, out of the 32 people in my class, the American students, 2 of them ended up in jail. Okay, not in Yale, in jail, in prison. Okay? And so one of them was Jeff Skilling, the CEO of Enron. He said, okay, just to give you an example of the kind of people he had in his class. And he said many of them ended up, got divorced, broken families. And so he was asking, how is it possible that such a group of brilliant people, smart people, selected from the best academic institutions, you know, with a very strong academic records, many of them very successfully professionally, okay, very successful professionally. And yet, they fail in such basic things as, I don't know, being a good citizen and staying off jail, basically, you know, not going to jail, right? Or just being, I don't know, a good parent, a good spouse. And look, things happen in life. I mean, we know that. Life is difficult, we cannot judge anyone, for sure. But still, I mean, no one gets married to get divorced afterwards. No one starts a business to go to jail, right? And so still it begs the question, so how did that happen, you know? And so he asked this question, and the answer he gave was the following. He said, look, in your professional job, you get constantly measured. You get constant feedback, you know. You do well and you receive the praise of your boss. You call a customer and you close a deal, you know, and you have this immediate satisfaction, gratification, you know. You're achieving goals. You hit your goals and you get a bonus. If you do well, you get promoted, you develop your career, you know, and you get this constant feedback, this constant measurement. Whereas in other facets of your life that arguably are more important probably for your happiness, such as being, I don't know, a good parent, educating your children, for example, you don't see the results short term, right? Actually, it's very difficult to measure the results many times. And you only realize 20 years down the road that maybe if you didn't equip your children properly for life, or you know. And so this is what he was saying, that, you know, professionally you get this constant measurement, but in other aspects that are more important, unless you really stop and plan in the same way that companies do, right? I mean, you set goals, you design a strategy, you allocate resources for things to happen, and at the end you have some KPIs to measure and follow up, right? Well, these things that you do for professional things and that you do for, you know, in companies, probably would be the same exercise to do in our lives, you know. Have a sort of a strategic plan about what is important in my life. And I'm sure that when we talk about leadership here, and probably, I don't know if you've talked about self-management, I mean, the first thing is to have these things in order also at the personal level. And I'm sure that looking at you, I mean, someone who is doing a program in advanced leadership, you know, obviously that means that you're very good professionally, because you're thinking already about how to improve basically in your leadership, you know, that you've got a successful career. But probably now it's a good moment, you know, at this stage of your careers, I would say, on average, looking at you, I don't know, I'm thinking about myself as well, you know, just to think, well, normally people who are successful professionally, they tend to, when you think about the 4 elements that are important in life in terms of happiness, when you look at the research that is done on happiness, I don't know if you had at some point Arthur Brooks here, who came, did he address this class? Or?
Not this class.
Not this class, okay, but he's been a guest speaker here sometimes. And he's social scientist who studies happiness. There is all this corpus of literature around happiness, you know, and studying what makes people happy. Anyway, with all the limitations, obviously, of measuring happiness, you know. At the end of the day, you have to measure emotions and different things. But in any case, of the many factors that can explain happiness, there are like 4 things that stand out, you know. And probably they will not surprise you. One of them, faith or a philosophical approach to life, so that you can take, you know, a little bit of perspective. But nevertheless, faith, family, friends and community, and then work. So work is also there. Obviously, focusing on work, being successful at work, that's important. It's an important element of your life, right? But my suspicion is that obviously all of you probably have invested a lot in work, you know, like all of us, you know, just to be where you are, because it's super demanding. And maybe sometimes we don't invest so much, maybe in the other, let's say, factors that also help in this happiness, right? And these things that have to do more with relationships, basically. Obviously, as I said, work is super important. And when I talk about work, I mean meaningful work, which has to do with earned success, you know? Success that has to do with basically feeling needed. You must feel needed. Why? Because you are good, because you have an expertise, because, you know, you can really help. And second, to serve others, you know, the idea of service. The idea of service that is in the mission of this institution, you know, the spirit of service. And that's something that I think is crucial. And something that you can apply to the rest of the factors in this happiness equation or portfolio that we're talking about, you know, when we talk about faith, family, friends, community, I mean, we're talking about service especially, you know, this is spirit of service. So I was thinking that, I don't know, maybe as you finish this program, obviously you have devoted a lot of resources and time to your professional, you know, skills, life, the development of your leadership skills, you know. So maybe now is also a good moment to think about this next stage of your profession, your life in general, and think about more investing in these other aspects, these other factors, but especially thinking about the legacy you want to leave behind, you know. I think there's a moment in which when you have already, you're in a situation of professional expertise, experience, you have resources, you have, you know, influence, you have, you know, in the organizations where you are. So now it's a moment to see, well, what I'm going to leave behind, what is the moral ecosystem that I'm going to create around me? Because what is true is that everything that you say and you do affects people around you and creates certain atmosphere, certain culture. Culture of companies, you know very well that has to do also with the example of the leader in the institution, right? And how these values are lived, basically. So, well, I thought that maybe this can be a good reflection as well to think about beyond also the professional context. You know, what is the kind of legacy you want to leave behind? It has to do with education in your family, you know, of children. It has to do with the communities we serve, family, friends, faith, all these kind of things, you know. What is it that, with the character I have built, because and the kind of person I am, and the kind of person I'm going to be 5, 10 years down the road with the decisions I'm making now, you know, how can I serve and really live like a fulfilled life? Because what we see is that these studies, and I think it's common sense, but sometimes these empirical studies also help us understand that, you know, this life of service to others is also something that fulfills you, that makes you happy, you know. So what I wish for you today is a life of happiness and a fulfilled life, basically. And you know, and that's all I wanted to say. So congratulations again on finishing this program, and I'll see you around. Thanks.
Inspiring words. Very good. Thank you.